Husband was manifesting a relationship with another woman. I was standing by the living room couch, trying to clean up, while our daughter toddled around picking at little objects and dragging them across the floor. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon with a dull gray light coming through the windows. I'd set my phone aside because I was trying to focus on tidying up the place. My husband's journals were scattered on a side table, along with some loose papers, pens, and half-drunk cups of coffee. Our daughter, curious and mischievous, waddled over and grabbed one of his notebooks. She started flipping the pages, jabbing at them with her tiny fingers. I sighed and walked over gently, determined to keep her from tearing out the pages or scribbling on them. As I reached to take the journal away from her, that's when I noticed a name in thick black pen, immediately recognizable. It was that woman's name, the same one from our last trip who'd caused all the drama. My mind gave a jolt, some combination of dread and confusion, because I remembered quite vividly how my husband had been infatuated with her during that vacation. The memory still stung. He'd been fixated on this woman, apparently planning to keep in touch with her once we got home. He told me about her in ways that hinted he couldn't stop thinking of her. Then, from what I gathered, he did contact her, and it all backfired horribly. She found him creepy, told him off, even banned him from the bar where she worked, or something along those lines. I can't say I had much pity for him in that situation, but it didn't stop the hurt I felt, knowing he'd been actively pursuing someone else while I was right there. The moment I saw her name in his journal, I froze. A mix of anger and heartbreak flared inside me. I should have walked away, or at least set the notebook down. But I couldn't. My curiosity, or maybe it was desperation, took over. I took the journal from my daughter's hands, carefully so she wouldn't fuss, and started flipping through the pages. My eyes caught lines of writing referencing that same woman. The words were written in a strange, excited tone, almost like a script he was practicing for his own fantasy. He kept repeating mantras about how she'd unblock him, how they would begin a relationship, how she'd see him as special. Each line sounded like a forced positive affirmation, the sort of thing I might do for my own personal growth or manifestation practice, except he was directing it all at this other woman. It was jarring to read each sentence, both enraging and devastating at once. See, a while back he had asked me about my own practice of manifestation, affirmations, journaling. I told him I write in a style that describes my dream life in the present tense, that I do affirmations about the outcomes I'd like to achieve. I guess I never imagined he'd twist that around to form a blueprint for chasing someone else. But there it was, spelled out plainly on the pages of his notebook, each line proclaiming how the universe would bring him together with this woman. It felt like a betrayal of the worst kind. When I think of manifestation journaling, I imagine conjuring positivity for one's own life, career goals, self-esteem, or even relationship harmony with your partner, not using it to lure in a new lover while married. I stood there in the living room, the vacuum cleaner's hum in the background, reading line after line. She will unblock me? My throat felt dry, my eyes stung. The rage built up, but so did an immense sadness. I was reminded how he'd done something similar effectively when he tried to contact her after that vacation. She'd shot him down. I thought that episode was over, so the realization that he was still fantasizing about her in secret shattered any sense of security I'd tried to maintain. I felt so worthless in that moment, like my presence in his life wasn't enough for him to direct those romantic energies toward us, or me, or our child. I flipped through more pages. He'd scribbled rants about how she's perfect or how he deserves this chance, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, in the meantime, he shares a home with me and our child. Where was the mention of our family in this so-called manifestation journal? Didn't he want to manifest a harmonious marriage? I'd been thinking maybe we could salvage our relationship, but reading those lines hammered home that he's living in a weird fantasy bubble that excludes me entirely. The sense of betrayal intensified. The worst part is, I find it so disturbingly contradictory that he's leaning on manifestation, a practice I associate with positivity and betterment, to chase after something morally destructive, like he's using a tool for personal growth to indulge an obsession with another woman, one who already rejected him. It's twisted. Then there's the fact that he knows I'm big on affirmations and journaling, so it's almost like he's taken my personal technique and co-opted it for a betrayal. I confronted him in my head 1,000 times that afternoon, but in reality, I just felt numb. The question that kept replaying was, why wasn't he manifesting a better outcome for us, or for our family? If he has mental energy to channel, Shouldn't he be directing it at repairing our marriage? He's aware that we're in a rough patch, and from the stories I've shared earlier, we've had issues with infidelity before. It's not like this was a shock to him, but apparently his mind is so fixated on another possibility, some improbable romance with this barwoman who can't stand him, that he invests his journaling in that. I felt hollow. I should note that for the past several months, I've been half out the door already, preparing to leave. I can't do so abruptly because I have minimal support systems, no extended family to crash with at. I do work, but ironically, it's connected to his business, meaning my finances are tangled up with his, and we have a daughter. So it's not like I can just pack a suitcase and drive away without a plan. I hate being reliant on him in this transitional phase. It's humiliating. And now, on top of that, I discover he's practically writing love spells for another woman. The heartbreak is intense, but so is the sense of humiliation. Am I so inconsequential in his eyes that he'd do this in our own home, in a notebook lying around, with little concern I might find it? All day I was numb, my chest felt tight, and my thoughts kept drifting into a swirl of self-hatred. Am I not good enough? Am I not attractive enough? Why is he so eager to chase after someone else? My rational mind knows he's the messed up one here. He's the one who's unfaithful, who tries to create a separate fantasy life. But emotionally, I'm still bogged down with insecurities. One part of me even imagines that if I do leave, he won't even bat an eye. He'll just see it as an opportunity to double down on chasing that woman. The bitterness I feel about that is overwhelming. I can't believe how different he's become from the man I fell in love with years ago. Maybe that's the real heartbreak. Back then I saw him as loving, supportive, funny. Now he's unrecognizable, a manipulative, self-serving stranger who thinks it's acceptable to manifest a side relationship instead of mending the family he already has. He's lost in illusions, refusing to face reality, especially the damage he's caused me. I imagine he thinks if this other woman magically changes her mind, he'll be fulfilled. It's so twisted. The immediate aftermath of discovering his journaling was me stumbling into the bathroom, locking the door, and sobbing so hard I nearly had an anxiety attack. I couldn't bear to look at him. My daughter was napping, thank God. The idea that I'm stuck in this house for now with no quick way out magnifies everything. It's like living with an emotional landmine. Never sure what else I'll find out about him. At this point, my trust is eroded beyond repair, but because I'm not yet financially independent, I have to endure. It's a horrible situation. Part of me's furious at myself for continuing to talk to him, cook with him, or do any semblance of normal life, but I do it for the sake of my child and my immediate survival. I guess I hope one day I'll be able to pick up, take my daughter, and never look back, but that's going to require money, time, and maybe a better job disconnected from him. I'm making slow moves behind the scenes, exploring options. Meanwhile, my mental health is fraying. Every new betrayal cements the fact that we're done, and yet I can't easily sever ties. I confided a bit of this in a close friend, someone who's known me for years. She was appalled but not surprised, given what she already knew about his track record. She said the main thing is for me not to internalize his behavior as a reflection of my worth. Intellectually, I get that. Emotionally, though, it's tough not to feel worthless, especially when the man who's supposed to be my partner invests time in fantasizing about a woman who told him to get lost. The pain's palpable. Now, I'm left in a weird limbo. I want to scream at him. Why? Why do you keep doing this? Why'd you dabble in that manifestation stuff about her? Don't you see how messed up that is? But I also know it probably led nowhere. He might feign ignorance, or claim I'm snooping. He might dismiss me as overreacting or silly. Yet the truth is undeniable. He wrote those lines, with that woman's name, describing how he wants her to unblock him and start a relationship. No amount of denial can erase that. I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm venting here, sharing this twisted turn of events, mostly because my heart is so heavy. The day I discovered that journal, I felt physically ill, nausea, headaches, the works. It's as though my body is rejecting the emotional trauma. I just keep telling myself I have to hold on a bit longer, gather resources, shield my daughter from the fallout, and then make my exit. The notion that he might not beg me to stay is also crushing. Part of me imagines, in a twisted way, that if I threaten to leave, he'd realize he can't lose me, that he'd shape up. But realistically, he might shrug and sink deeper into his illusions, chasing someone else, imagining some cosmic plan in which he ends up with a stranger who has already banned him from her life. That's how far gone he is. Despite the heartbreak, I'm determined to maintain a shred of self-worth. I have to keep reminding myself that his actions stem from his own issues. Narcissism, insecurity, something I can't fix. That doesn't negate my pain, though. Nor does it lessen the betrayal. The day can't come soon enough when I'm free from this environment. Until then, I try to function. Feed my daughter, keep up appearances, stash away some savings, and keep my mind focused on an eventual new start. It's bleak, but I have to do it for my sanity. So that's the situation. My husband, who's already been unfaithful, is using the manifestation techniques I taught him to conjure a relationship with another woman who wants nothing to do with him. The cruelty and absurdity of it isn't lost on me. I'm in a place of deep sorrow and confusion, but I see no path forward except biding my time and building a future escape route. I guess I just needed to get it off my chest, to vent about how twisted the scenario is. It's my hope that once I eventually leave, I'll find the peace and freedom I deserve, away from these mind games and fantasies he keeps weaving without any regard for me or our child.